Thank you very much, Shane. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I really appreciate it. I have been aware of WAEPA for a long time as they were sponsors with Federal News Radio when I was there, and I'm pleased to be invited to be a part of this event today. And I want to apologize in advance, Linda. It's tempting because Walt and I have done this so many times on radio, television. It feels like sometimes we just sit and do it over coffee for no other reason than we just dig it. So if I'm going to work extra hard to make sure that we're paying attention to you two and that I'm not just talking to my old friend here.
Oh, and I'll make extra hard that you don't forget me.
I appreciate that. I'm going to start with you because one of the questions that I have gotten over the years more than any other question is regards the thrift savings plan. And I think the TSP does a pretty decent job of trying to educate its participants about the mechanics. I'm not sure the participants always receive it because they ask about the match in particular. And the question is, what do I have to do to make sure that I'm getting the most amount of money that the agency is going to match for me in my thrift savings plan?
Okay. Well, this is a question that often I explore with in my seminars. And one of the things I always start out with is how many of you are contributing at least 5% of your base earnings? And let me ask this group, how many are contributing at least 5% of your base earnings? Well, if you
Nice.
Nice. If you're federal employees, you should be walking in the door contributing at least 5% to guarantee that you're getting the 5% government contribution. You're not leaving the free money towards your retirement on the table. The other thing that I encourage employees to do is to try to maximize their contribution up to, of course, the IRS tax deferral limit, which for this year was how much? Anyone know? Oh, good group, 18.5. Wow. I get all types of answers in my seminars that are below the 18.5. That means that each year you need to check to see if IRS has raised that tax deferral limit, because they do raise that from time to time. Generally around mid-November, you will find out if you log on to the IRS website, TSP website, whether or not the limitation for the forthcoming year has been increased. That means that if you are maximizing, then you need to make an adjustment through your payroll according to what the new limitation amount is. Now, one of the other things that I always emphasize to employees is that you must be contributing 5% biweekly over the entire 26 payday cycle. Some of you may be working for agencies that this year is a 27 payday cycle. That's something you need to check each year with your payroll office to find out, are you under a 27 or 26 payday cycle? Because that means that you have to start your action in the payroll system in a timely fashion to ensure that you are contributing the 5% over the entire 26 payday cycle. Now, why do I keep saying payday? Because a lot of federal employees get caught up on pay periods. And you have to understand that pay period 25 in December, which ends in December, is generally the first payday in the new tax year. So that means that employees pay period 25 of 2017 was not paid until after January the 1st. That's new tax year money. Your contribution tax year runs from 1/1 to 12/31 is what you have contributed between 1/1 and 12/31. So not only do you have to pay attention to pay periods, you also have to consider my pay days so that you are contributing over the entire 26 or 27 payday cycle. Okay?
That's terrific advice. I want to ask you both kind of a broader question, and we're going to have plenty of time for your questions too. We're going to do a longer Q&A section than we normally do at events like this. So I just want to maybe paint some broad strokes here to begin. And Walt, I'm going to ask you a similar question in a moment. What's the biggest mistake that as you start to talk to people individually, one-on-one, and they say, well, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, and it's not just TSP, anything in their compensation package or insurance or whatever, what's the biggest mistake that when people say it, you go, oh gosh, you shouldn't be doing that, and you hear it over and over again?
I think the biggest thing that I hear is that people are not contributing the 5%.
Not matching.
They're not getting the full 5% government match, even though we've become a little more conscious these days of trying to save more towards our retirement. I think, as Gene pointed out, we're still not doing a great job at this, and you still find, I find personally throughout the federal government, many federal employees who say, I can't afford to do that now. I'll do that later. And my response is, you can't afford not to. You've got to start at least not leaving free money on the table with the full 5% government match. The other piece that I am learning is that a lot of people who are maximizing, they don't realize that they must be contributing that 5% biweekly. They say, well, I'm getting the entire 18.5 contributed early in the year before the last payday. And then I hit them with the bad news. And I say, well, guess what? You are forfeiting your government matching. If you reach the IRS limitation before the last payday of your tax year, your payroll is going to stop allowing you to contribute. And then what people come back and say, well, I'll make that up with the $6,000 in catch-up contributions. That's those who are 50 or over. My response is, you can't make that up. Once you're losing the government match, you've lost it for that year. You cannot ever get that money back in your account. So you have to be sure that you are contributing 5% bi-weekly over the entire 26 payday cycle. So some of you may be at this point that you need to ratchet down quickly so that you are not forfeiting for the remaining paydays of this tax year any of your government matching contributions. You probably need to take a look at your earnings and leave statement to see where you are, how close are you to the maximum 18.5. I also recommend to employees that if you are maximizing, instead of using a percentage, you may want to use a dollar amount. So that means that you would take the 18.5 divided by 26 or 27 pay periods. If you're dividing it by 26, which most of the payroll centers this year are operating under 26. There's a few with 27. That means you should have been contributing at least $712 bi-weekly since the first pay day of this tax year. That means your action in payroll had to go in pay period 25 of December of 2017 so that you would be on track. The danger of using a percentage, for those of you who are maximizing up to the limitation amount, is that you may not keep up with promotions, with in-grades, your January comparability pay increase, and the percentage is taking a percentage of your base earnings. If you're not paying attention, you could reach the 18.5 because your salary increased and you were using a percentage and you didn't realize it and you maxed out before that last payday, which means, of course, that you're losing the government match. So you have to really pay attention to your account.
Gosh, one of the things I love about doing this job is meeting experts that know exactly what they're talking about. Walt, same question to you. You, of course, are the insurance guru of all insurance gurus for federal employees. Show the book, because you've written the Checkbook Guide to Health Plans for, what, the last 914 years?
Just about.
Something like that?
Yeah.
When's the new one come out, by the way?
Right around the beginning of open season.
Okay, so
but it's
couple
mainly,
weeks, right?
Yeah, it's online, though, is our main vehicle these days. But we keep the print edition around for those of us who, like me, actually like to, turn pages.
And I have teased Walt since almost the first time that I met him that he is a reverse hibernator. He's around everywhere for a month during open season, and then the other 11 months of the year, he's in his cave just getting ready for the next one. What's the biggest mistake that you see people make regarding their insurance?
It's a very simple mistake. Well, there's two ways to look at it. The dramatic way is only about 5% of federal employees change health plans in open season. And given the plans, that the numbers enrolled in a lot of losing plans, which we'll discuss more, the number who changed during open season should probably be about 20% or 30%. People are couch potatoes. They don't like insurance. It's complicated. Opening a 100-page brochure for each plan you're considering is beyond I do that. But, you know.
You get paid to do that because you publish
I don't
that
even
book.
but nobody pays me enough. I was up last night till 1 a.m. putting finishing touches on some of our tables and comparisons. And I'll be up till 1 a.m. tonight finishing off everything. People just don't realize that they can save a ton of money, thousands of dollars a year, by changing health plans, and in a sensible way. And it's even to the point where I'd like to say one of the best long-term investment vehicles available to federal employees nowadays are high deductible health plans with a health savings account. And people are not, how many people in this room have a high deductible health plan? Good for you. That's not a very large number, but that's better than zero. How many people are in Blue Cross Standard Option? Uh-oh. I could say, now you should talk to the people sitting next to you who are in the high deductible plan, and we're talking here about a savings vehicle where the money goes in tax preferred, it accumulates tax preferred, and you take it out without paying any tax. It's like an IRA on steroids. And I know people who've got $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in a health savings account, and you can have it in stock market, in index funds, however you want to invest it. It's literally like an IRA, and it's just money sitting there waiting for you to take, and people don't take it.
Except there's no penalty when you pull it out and use it on your...
If you use it for health care,
on your health care,
in your old age, so to speak,
right?
There's no penalty.
Can that accumulate year to year, or is it like the flexible spending accounts used to be that if you don't use it, you lose it?
No, you keep it. It's a lot of people use flexible spending accounts. The problem with that is that's just paying, your out-of-pocket, prescription drug costs or something. It could be. I think it's $2,700 next year. Don't hold me to that number. I should have it memorized, but I usually...
Well, you have a lot of numbers floating around in your
I usually
head right
wait
now,
to
Walt.
memorize till the very beginning of open season. And that's useful. That's tax preferred. Another general point people don't, I think, fully understand is that all your health insurance spending on premiums is tax advantaged. And it's tax advantaged in practice at your marginal tax rate, which for most feds, and this is true at just about all pay grades, and whether you're single or married, you are paying marginal tax rates somewhere around 30 to 40%. I like to use the 33% numbers, a round number. And by the way, under the new tax law going into effect, already in effect for this year, you won't see all the bad news or good news until April maybe. A lot of people are going to be closer to the 40% marginal tax rate, because whatever you spend on health insurance premiums is that amount of money is exempted from federal income tax, state income tax, Social Security tax, and Medicare tax, and you add all those up, and it's at the margin. So that's why you're saving roughly a third of whatever you spend on insurance premiums. Now that is not an argument for going into a high premium plan. It is simply an argument that says, gosh, if I'm in a plan like a high deductible plan with a health savings account, I'm saving 40% of whatever I put into that health savings account at the beginning, and then it grows year after year after year, compounding. And I'm sure, people in WAEPA who buy insurance through WAEPA are almost by definition financially savvy people. But it's very hard to understand just how much people just don't think about insurance and realize what potential it creates for saving a lot of money.
I want to come back to that term that you used, losing plans, because that implies, to me at least, that there are some winning plans or there's some corollary to the losing plans. But Linda, you were talking about making sure that you had those numbers exactly right, the $712. I was about to try to figure it out on my calculator on my phone, and you nailed the number before I even had a chance to open my calculator app. But how good are the human capital shops at the agencies at helping employees to make sure that they've got all these I's dotted and T's crossed when somebody expresses an interest in doing so? I know Commerce, where's Kevin Mahoney? I know the Commerce Department is terrific at doing that. Kevin was here earlier. But how good are they at helping employees when they want to figure these things out?
I think I have to be honest. It varies. Some agencies are better than others at getting information out to employees in a timely fashion, I might add as well. And I've done a lot of Commerce seminars, so I do know that Commerce really goes out of their way to ensure that their employees get information in a timely fashion. But one of the things, since open season is around the corner, that I found that a lot of agencies don't do, and this ties into Walt's discussion on high deductible health plans with HSA accounts, most agencies do not promote them, Walt. When they have open season, they say very little about the high deductible plans and the whole HSA program. So I think because agencies now feel that they have automated to the degree where everything is online and available to employees, they are encouraging employees to basically use their online systems. So, and what I find in a lot of my seminars, most employees say, well, how do I get into that system? And then other employees are giving them advice and counsel about how to get into the system and how to navigate the system and so forth. And that's the world we live in. We are in a high-tech world now where the federal government is moving faster and faster in technology. So I encourage employees to take the time to understand their agency's automated system, take the time to go to the open season fairs or festivals, whatever the agencies are calling them, to gather information. And I also tell them, take the time in the comfort of their homes to go onto the website, opm.gov, tsp.gov, ssa.gov, and just spend some time getting good information. So again, in answer to your question, it's going to vary from agency to agency, and I don't want to call out any agency.
No, I'm not asking you to do that, but it just, I'm just curious because I have heard instances where employees say, I went to my HR office and said, I want to do whatever it is, and boom, it was like that, it was done. And I've heard instances, as you say, where employees go and they have, even though they're specifically following directions, like the suggestions you laid out earlier, it's a little bit more of a process and they have to be a little bit more persuasive in order to get done what they want to get done.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think, and some of you might work for agencies where the HR functions are so centralized in different areas of the country that employees don't have an office per se, or a warm body per se that they can engage to get answers to their questions. So employees naturally become frustrated, and in many cases, that's why they don't get information. That's why they don't make the changes that probably should be made to even their health insurance that could save them quite a bit of money and so forth. And defense is a great example of that. Most of the defense offices, HR offices, are centralized in different areas of the country. So the people here, for example, let's say in this area of the country, their HR function may be in Puget Sound, Washington. Okay, so they have to wait.
Hard for me to get there.
Yeah, hard to get there. Have to wait 3 hours for them to catch up with our time and so forth. And that's why it is really becoming incumbent upon employees now to really take their time to turn over the rocks and find answers to their questions. Even if it takes time, they've got to take that time because we're just in that age of technology.
Walt, you used a term a minute ago that I want to make sure I understand, and that's the term tax advantaged. I know what tax deferred means, and I know what taxable means, but I want to make sure I understand what tax advantaged means regarding the insurance plans.
That's just a general term, but there's a technical term that's used a lot called paying with pre-tax money.
Yes.
And I always found that confusing because, but the point is if the money that you pay towards insurance doesn't count as taxable income, which is a big piece of it, of the panoply of tax advantage benefits available, that's where I'm talking about saving that 40%. But there are other tax advantages involved, and again, my simple example is high deductible plans with a health savings account. Flexible spending accounts are tax advantaged. So there are a lot of angles here that matter. But I don't want to overemphasize the tax part. A lot of this is just sheer dollars. one of the comparisons we do is it worth taking Medicare Part B in retirement and paying, in effect, 2 health insurance premiums? Okay, you have a wonderful FEHB plan or program, I'll call it, depending what plan you're in, doesn't matter for this purpose. You've got very good health insurance in retirement. Why do you have to buy Medicare in addition and pay all that extra premium? And the answer is you don't, but there are some times when it makes a lot of sense to do so. Let me make 2 points about that. One is that, and I just happen to have the table here because I worked on it.
Of course you do. Is that what you were working on at 1 o'clock last night?
Yeah. With Medicare Parts A and B, if you are in the Care First high deductible plan, okay, as a retiree, your total cost, counting out-of-pocket spending for your share of the the co-pays and co-insurance, plus the insurance premiums you pay, in Care First high deductible plan, you're going to be out of pocket around $5,000. In Blue Cross Standard Option, you're going to be out of pocket around $12,000. There's a $7,000 difference depending on which of those 2 options you choose. And I don't mean, there's lots of other good ones. Blue Cross Basic is a pretty good option, okay? That cuts your cost down to $8,000. That's only $3,000 worse than the Care First. Probably few of you have ever heard of what used to be called the Bail Handlers Plan. Now it's called MHBP. They have a high deductible plan, which essentially is as good as the Care First. Kaiser, the basic Kaiser option is very good in retirement with Part B. I mean, I could go on. There's lots of money to save, big differences among plans, it's not just taxes. It's the bottom line is your wallet and how hard do you want to hit your wallet.
I think the most true thing that you said, based on the years of that we've done this, Walt, is that you could go on. Because you could go on. And I'm glad that we have somebody like you to call on to get this information. I want to go to questions in just a couple of minutes, so I'll ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Linda. What do you want to make sure, among all of the things that we've talked about and all of the things that you work on every day, what do you want to make sure these folks leave here knowing? What do you want to make sure they don't miss when they walk out the door today? Something that they could do that would make a difference in their retirement planning or their financial well-being rather quickly, that you see them. We talked about biggest mistakes already, but other opportunities besides the match where people may leave money on the table or something like that that will make a difference for them today, that will really be valuable for them.
Well, one of the things I didn't share is that I am retired from government now. I retired January 31st, 2016, and went back to NITP to provide my services, again, to provide pre-retirement seminar. I've already cited a couple of people who attended a couple of seminars in the audience today. But I think the thing that I want to leave as a retiree to leave people with, and it's so much that's swirling in my mind that I could say, but I always tell people you want to look at 2 things that Jean perhaps mentioned. Not only that you're financially ready to make your transition, but you're psychologically ready to make the transition. And that means you need to ask yourself, what are you leaving? What are you going to leave on the job that you can't carry into retirement? We've got lots of things as federal employees that you can carry into retirement, but you do not carry some of the things that you look forward to on a daily basis into retirement. Number 1 is socialization. When my husband retired, long before I retired, and I started to ask him, what are you going to do? And he kept, and he just looked at me, and I said, what are you going to do? And he'd look at me, and finally one day he was irritated, and he said, Linda, what do you keep asking me? What am I going to do? I'm going to retire. I've put in my time with government. I also served as an Air Force reservist during my federal career. I'm just ready to retire. I said, and do what? I need to know what you're going to do. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to let it happen. And I let it happen. I let him retire. And every time I came home from a seminar, Bob, he'd throw the door open, and he was waiting for me. And I didn't want to.
Couldn't wait.
He needed to talk to a human being.
Yep.
And it was like, I don't want to talk anymore. I've been talking all day. So I'd sit in a car sometimes, and he'd say, why are you sitting in the car? I said, I'm just listening to this radio show.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh God, please, please, please. I just don't want to talk, but I got to get out of this car. So you do want to look at what are you going to leave behind that you're going to really miss in your retirement years, and how do you replace that? Now, as I was talking to Bob Lyons from NITP, I was telling him, I am still working. I just believe that even a part-time job, you may not need the money, but even a part-time job is very rewarding in your retirement years. Hopefully it's something that you'd like to do, and it doesn't have to be a paid job. It could be volunteer work. So absent all the finances and all the decisions that we need to make about ultimately transitioning into retirement, you got to put together a new set of goals and make sure that those goals are your goals and not someone else's goals that's made them happy. One of the things I did, and I didn't do well with it, well, I'll tell you, I always wanted to play the piano, so I signed up at the college to take piano lessons. And my husband said, I hope you're not going to buy the piano first. And I said, no, I'll wait and see how well I do with this.
Wise move.
Wise move. Yeah, a friend of mine had a keyboard and said, you can have the keyboard to get you started. Well, I can still play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but that's it.
And so I have to know the end of the story. Did you get him to volunteer at the library or the animal shelter or something?
He works for Capital One now. He's been there now since he retired. It used to be the Verizon Center. He loves sports. He gets to pick his own schedule. He loves it.
Perfect.
And most of the time he works at night. So when
Oh, yeah.
so when I come in, he's gone.
He's headed out. Boy,
Gotta have the space.
you are an expert in a lot of things, Linda. That's fantastic. Walt, what do you want to make sure people walk out of here knowing today that will help them make a difference, especially with open season right around the corner?
There are literally, there are about 25 or 28 plans in the DC area. Actually, that's true in most of the country. There's somewhere close to 30 plans available. There's close to 30 plans available for you to choose from during that 1 month period from this year, November 12th to December 10th. I don't care what resource you use. We think our resource is the best because we actually calculate what you're likely to be out of pocket in Plan A versus Plan B versus Plan C, depending on your health, your retirement status, the family size, et cetera. But there are bargains amongst those 25 or 30 plans. And even if you don't pick the very best plan, you can almost certainly improve the plan over whatever you're in, unless you've been through this process several times over the years and have already found yourself, yeah, I'm a Kaiser person, I love Kaiser, and you're not going to beat Kaiser in any substantial way in terms of keeping the cost to your wallet at the minimum possible. But, Blue Cross Basic, another good choice. GIHA Standard option. I already mentioned all the high deductible plans, spectacular buys, and what I'm still blown by, it's actually the case, there are now 3 plans in this system where if you retire and take Medicare Part B as well as Part A, you will save money net by signing up for Part B. This never used to be the case. It used to be you're spending a lot of money on premium and not getting very much back because you've been paying $20 copay for a doctor visit for all these years, but it's only 10 or 20 visits a year. So how much can Medicare Part B save you at $20 a visit, getting a 100% wraparound deal? Well, the answer is it probably can't, but sometimes it can, particularly if you're in a plan with a high deductible and the plan has a waiver so you don't pay the deductible at all if you have Part B. So most people here are much younger, and I think it's much more useful to think of this as as an investment decision. We make these year-to-year comparisons. Next year you could save $2,000 in plans A, B, and D compared to plans Q, R, and X. But think of that compounding over time, and it gets to be real money. Very simple thing everyone should do, and only about 1/4 of feds do this. Even if you don't do something fancy, like joining a high deductible plan with a health savings account, have you set up your flexible spending account, which you also do in open season. FSAs can save you, in effect, you're getting a 1/3 discount on whatever you spend on health care. And while it is use or lose money, it's gotten pretty flexible. You know, you have a grace period in the following year if you misestimate. Anyone can figure out, at least crudely, with a pencil and paper, you know, how much are you out of pocket a year in, you know, co-payments for dentists, co-payments for doctors, co-payments for prescription drugs, and maybe one or two other items. For most of us, it's going to be in the vicinity of $1,000 a year or more. Put that $1,000 in a flexible spending account if you do nothing else. But I like the other way around is think of it as giving yourself a pay raise. You know, you're going to get, this is going to be whatever it's going to be next year, a 1% or 2% federal pay raise once the Congress and the President finish
1.9 is what it looks.
duking it out. Is that now settled?
It's not settled yet quite, but it looks pretty solid.
That's peanuts, okay? And you may read in the papers, hey, federal health plans only went up about 2% on average for next year compared to this year. Sounds like kind of boring. Why? Well, wrong. Why settle for a measly 2% pay raise when you can get a couple of grand just by making a sensible choice of health plans? So spend a little bit of time.
Linda and Walt, thank you very much for this. It's always a wonderful opportunity to learn about things that really impact the lives of these folks. And I want to thank Shane and the team at WAEPA again for inviting me to be a part of this. I appreciate your support of what I've done over the years, and I appreciate the chance to come and see everybody this morning. Thanks very much.